Anita is a core member of Armstrong's sustainability team and has led Armstrong's commitment to health and well-being of occupants. And she drives the material health, transparency, and life cycle assessment efforts at Armstrong. Anita has led the Armstrong Ceiling Recycling Program for its entire existence for over 21 years. And as a lead AP, she co-chaired the LEED Platinum certification of their headquarters. Anita is a subject matter expert for Armstrong's sales force for all sustainability projects and has provided industry education through articles, courses, and has presented and trained extensively both in person and virtually as she's doing today.
So I'm going to kick it off, really asking the question, why have EPDs become so important? Why is embodied carbon so important to our building industry? And we've seen these facts, maybe I'm sure all of you that are on this call have, but a few facts just to level set all of us. Certainly annually, the embodied carbon of building structure, substructure, and enclosures are responsible for 11% of the global greenhouse gas emissions and 28% from the global building sector emissions. So, we all have to work together to help to reduce that. We've seen that. We've also seen this data from Architecture 2030 showing that addressing embodied carbon may be even more important than the opportunity that we've done in addressing operational carbon. We've done a great job at doing that, putting renewable energy in, being more energy efficient in our buildings. But the embodied carbon is emitted even before the building is occupied. And once it's emitted, it's in the atmosphere and we're never going to get it back. So, as a manufacturer, and whenever I try to come up with a new idea, we're always asked for a business case. So these are our kind of go-tos as to really the business case for why we're all having this discussion today. And the good news is that embodied carbon can be reduced, and often with just some decisions that we make and you make as we go through. And hopefully we'll show you those as we go through the presentation. We've certainly also seen this slide about the health. Whoops, sorry, it's a little automated. There we go. About the health and how climate change and health really are connected. And we've seen this as we've experienced what we have over the past year, and that we really need to focus on not just the emissions part, but also the health and the connection to that, and how important that is as well. We also, from all the stakeholders that we interact with as a manufacturer, we're looking at climate change and its risk on our business. And that's being done by our investors. Certainly we're getting many more questions. Our CEO is getting more questions about climate risk, about sustainability, CSR, ESG, and they're asking us more in-depth questions. Not just do you have a sustainability report, but what are you doing? So they're looking for some concrete actions there. And then also lastly is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And they are goals that have been established as a blueprint to achieve a better world and more sustainable future for all of us. They cover many different areas, poverty, inequality, but number 13 covers climate action, and it's really about taking urgent action to combat climate change. We recently signed the UN Global Compact, so that's our commitment, and so a lot of what we're doing with our EPDs and life cycle work ties right into this goal. So let's dive into what goes into creating EPDs. Simply put, EPDs are produced from conducting a life cycle assessment, LCA. So lots of alphabet soup here, EPD, LCA. But Armstrong's been conducting a life cycle assessment, goodness, for over 10 years. We were first in our industry to create EPDs. And for many years, the EPDs kind of just sat on the shelf. It was a checkbox. saying, do you have an EPD? Sure, here you go. And it was the 18-page document that just was there. So now it's exciting that they are now the basis for reducing embodied carbon, a key to reaching our climate goals, both from our standpoint and also in projects as well. So let's review a life cycle assessment. As shown here, LCA really is the entire life cycle of a product. It starts with the raw materials, where they're extracted, the processing of those raw materials, the transportation of those. It also covers what happens in our own manufacturing, in our operations, from our energy, our water use, our waste. And then once that product is finished, it covers the distribution, the installation, the use of that product, and then the end of life. The focus of most interior finished products are really in those first two circles, the extraction and manufacture. A1 through A3 is the stages, but really that's where almost 80% of our impacts are in those, in what materials we're using, are we using any recycled streams, and then the impact from a manufacturing standpoint. So the steps to create an EPD, I just went through, we'll go through 6 steps of how, really 5, and then publishing them. It takes about approximately, oh goodness, anywhere from 3 to 6 months in our organization, at least, till we, sign a contract, till we do all of these steps. That's about the time period. Very much dedicated resources and also dollars in order to work with our third-party verifiers, as well as publication, also our software. So there's some investment behind that. EPDs currently last for 5 years, which, if you think about, is a pretty large time lapse of when we first collect data to when they're up for renewal. And we're actually going through that renewal right now, but that's really an opportunity for some change, because there's a lot of updates and innovation that happens during that 5-year time period. Step 1 and 2, first we collect the data, includes all of the data from a raw material standpoint, all of the information from how the product's made. And this is done through our plants. So we go to our plants, collect that data, or if it's something we manufacture with an external supplier, we have to work with them. So we need to have some cooperation there. Step 2 is really where the life cycle assessment occurs. This assessment is very technical in that it has to conform to what's called a PCR, product category rules, which are a set of rules and requirements and guidelines that are set by our industry and agreed to by the industry, so that all EPDs from a product category, like a ceiling, are all organized the same way, have the same information, and also have the same kind of rules of the road. Step 3 is basically, just one step here is we use what's called Gabby, which is our software for conducting our life cycle assessment. And this software is where all that data that we collected from our plant goes in, and these are the outputs that you're getting, which are then publicized as part of the EPD. Global warming potential, which is, of course, what the main focus, smog, air pollution, ozone depletion, acidification, eutrophication. So these are all the impacts that product has over its life cycle on these different areas. So all of that is in that EPD. EPDs also, once the life cycle assessment is conducted in a model, there is a life cycle report, a background report that's created that summarizes the output from the LCA model. This provides the details of what's the methodology, the assumptions that were made, the approach, and also is used by the third-party verifier to read through, compare against the model, and then compare against your published EPD to be sure that you followed what I had mentioned before, the PCR and the standards that you need to adhere to. Once that third-party verification is underway, so they'll verify the model, the report, and the EPD. We actually use UL. You receive in your EPD what's shown here in that signature part, the PCR part. So this is kind of the standardized stamp that this is official on the second page of the EPD. And then lastly is certainly publishing it. And we publish our EPDs. We have a dedicated transparency site that has all of our transparency information. HPDs declare, EPDs is one of them. We also have the EPDs published on UL Spot, Mindful Materials, Sustainable Minds, and of course the EC3 tool. There are, just to mention quickly, there are two types of EPDs, a product-specific EPD and an industry-specific. And the product-specific is dedicated data about that product only. Industry-specific is where a group of manufacturers go together, like in metal, and everyone contributes their information about a metal sealing that they make, and it's combined all together to create an EPD that's a norm or an average for products that are alike. So from a manufacturer standpoint, we really ask you to specify products with published EPDs, use the tools available to make smart choices, and also to put it in your specifications. Create a global warming section and an EPD requirement in your specs. This really helps to send an important and affirming market signal from you, our industry, our customers, to manufacturers, and that really matters as we go towards making the investment in both time and money to create these. And so there really isn't a shortage now. Most manufacturers have moved towards creating EPDs, so you should be able to find EPDs readily available in most product categories. And also, the tools that are emerging, which we're going to talk about in the rest of the session, which are helping to make these much more usable, which is great to see the evolution so far, and that the entire process is definitely open to improvement and moving towards more of a digital world, which we all hope to make things more usable. So on that note, I'll turn it over to Chris, and I will stop sharing and let him pick up the slides. Thank you.
Great.